Yes, there was one piece of quite a bit of fireworks. Mark responded to one question. I haven't got a note even of what it was now, because obviously one simply can't keep up typing away. Mark responded to one question by asking a question. The prosecution, to be fair, actually can't answer that. That's not what they're there for. Mark then pointed out, you haven't answered my question. The prosecution says, it's because I'm here to ask the questions, you're here to answer them. And Mark countered with that, well, I think it's because you can't answer it. At that point the judge intervened for the first time to remind Mark that really it is the job of counsel to ask the questions, not answer them. Mark apologised very politely, I'm sorry my lord, and it carried on. But it had been fun while it lasted. A little bit later on the prosecution barrister got himself a light reprimand for really pushing into territory which he had no legal place to be, and that was pretty much I suppose a score draw on that basis. Throughout the whole thing, while there was quite a lot of tension between Mark and the prosecution, throughout the whole trial today there was certainly a degree of tension between Mark and the prosecution as they're standing facing each other across really quite a small space. Mark, well, naturally enough, when this bloke's trying to send him to prison, is taking it as personally as he's entitled to. The prosecution man, of course, is merely doing his job. That's one of the things. In some ways this English legal system is frankly disgusting. On the other hand, you've got to look and think, well, it's the best anyone's got in the world for all its faults. So this adversarial system where effectively the barristers play act. So one of Mark's barristers and one of mine are in court shortly against each other on an appeal. So they argue, they beat hammer and tongs out of each other verbally and mentally, but in the end it's all part of a club. I say, to an outsider it's slightly incestuous and unpleasant, but like I say, when it's left alone by the European Union and so on, it actually does work, and for all its faults it's probably the best system there is in the world. After lunch there was talk about white racist crime. Yes, Mark was asked, well, why, when you're talking about the crimes of ethnic minorities, why don't you say that it's not all of them, it's only a small minority? And Mark countered that. He said, well, when the media talk, for instance, about white racist attacks on ethnic minorities, do the media ever say, of course this isn't all white people, it's just a minority? And he said, of course they don't. It's simply not necessary. Everybody understands that when you criticise criminal acts from any community, that you're not trying to criticise or demonise the whole community. You're just talking about people from within it. And this is the point Mark aimed to get across, and I think he did really quite well. There was a short piece during the day when the jury had to be sent out while we had another legal discussion. I don't think it's giving any secrets away to say that that didn't come to anything in effect, really. Interesting point of law which we'll have to get out when we're actually entitled, once it's all over, to write up everything that's happened. But for the time being, that was that. The jury came back only to be told that the prosecution had now finished their cross-examination. There's no re-examination by Mark's barrister, so that was the end of it. So that's it for today. Tomorrow I'm in court. I've got Rajinder Singh, the Sikh gentleman who we worked with for some years, available to come into court and give evidence on my behalf. Overwhelmingly just to say, yep, the British National Party has worked with Sikhs, I've got on well with these people, they've got a position on immigration and multiculturalism, but they're not racist, they're not bigots, they're not crazy or anything like that. And to prove that when I talked about Islam, I'm not using it, as the prosecution I think are going to allege tomorrow, as a code word for Asians. When I talk about Islam, I'm talking about Islam. When I'm talking about the problems that specifically Muslims tend to bring to communities where they're not totally dominant, I'm talking about the problems brought by Muslims, and groups, other Asian groups such as Hindus and Sikhs, are very often just as much the victims of some of the problems which arise as white people are. But Rajinder's there so that if the prosecution push this point, and we have to make the point very, very powerfully, well, that's what he's going to be there to do. So I'm very pleased to have him along there, and well, we'll see what tomorrow brings. But I think it's going to be probably the day of the most fireworks, so I'll look forward to giving you a report tomorrow night. Mark will be doing the blog tomorrow, because obviously I can't take the laptop into the witness box. So you'll get a chance to see what he makes of it through his eyes tomorrow. So log on, look in, and see you then. Bye.